Hello, guys. I'm excited to talk to
Hello.
you today.
I know. How's it going?
Fantastic. Yeah, pretty good. It's cold. It's really
Oh, yeah.
cold here.
Wintertime. Oh my gosh.
It's like cold. There's snow covering, I think, 80% of the country right now, which is
It's
very
insane.
rare.
Yeah. And a
It's
lot of
so
cold snaps, right? Cold snaps all over the
Freezing.
US. It's insane.
It's so insane. Yeah, like below zero. Anyway, we are inside, we are warm, and we are going to talk about a very fun topic today. Guys, I mean, listeners, students, you might be surprised at what kind of conversations you can have about Disney, right? But we're going to have those conversations today. Lindsay, why is it so helpful for students to have conversations like this that they can
Oh my
hear?
gosh. This is so important, guys, because listening to a group is so different from listening to a one-to-one conversation, right? Your textbook gives you the one-to-one dialogues. That's easy. You've been doing that your whole life, but these are unscripted. Now, that is the key. We don't really script these. We just come up with the concept, the conversation topic, and now we're going to give you guys what comes to our mind spontaneously. So it's much more like what you would see at a party, for example. Yeah.
Yes. And you'll really want to pay attention to our intonation and our stress because these are skills that every non-native needs to improve. So you
Yes.
can listen and then mimic these conversations to sound more natural when you're speaking in English.
Totally.
In fact, just yesterday, I was working with a student. We were having a speaking class, and he's like, "What is my biggest problem? Like, tell me the biggest thing I need to improve." And his first language was Chinese, and if your first language is tonal, right, like a lot of Asian languages, getting that English rhythm is really hard, and it does come down to intonation and stress. Like that's all of it. So guys, definitely use this lesson, right? Listen, mimic, copy. And guys, you can get weekly audio lessons like this with transcripts, so you can improve your listening, improve your vocab, improve your speaking. Get these lessons every single week, guys. You can subscribe. It's called Conversations and Coffee. It's fantastic. Sign up, allearsenglish.com/fast.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into it. Okay, this is a weird but fun topic, and something I've actually, in the real world, talked about with my friends recently.
Oh, yeah.
Disney. I mean, let's just start with like a wide open question. Like, how do you feel about Disney? What do you what comes to mind if somebody says Disney?
The first word I think of is just expensive because we live pretty close to Disneyland, so we could go quite often, but it's so expensive to visit the park. And it's getting more right now. Disneyland's closed, but it's so expensive. And the clothing, the apparel, if your kids, I avoid buying any Disney clothes because we don't really do a lot of clothing with like animated characters on it at all. But there have been times where my kids will want some kind of Disney backpack or, something, and it's twice as expensive as a regular backpack would be. So I collocate it with being expensive.
Totally. We went to Disneyland a couple years ago, and luckily my mom paid for it. I'm like, that is an enormous present. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because like so much money.
So much money.
Oh
I think of movies. I think of all the movies. There are people that love Disney movies, and I have people in my life that want to watch Disney all the time. Like, okay.
You don't love it,
I
Lindsay?
just don't get it. I mean, I'll sit through it. I'll enjoy the movie, but I don't want to watch Disney all the time. They're okay. They're cute, but I like other movies.
Honestly, I've never known anybody like that. Because Lindsay, like you said that before, the people in your life that are obsessed with Disney.
Even like large men, like love Disney. I won't name any names, but I do know a very big guy that loves to watch Disney movies. I don't know.
Like old Disney movies, like
all
I
of
don't know,
them.
Bambi? Like,
I think no.
I'm trying to understand. I'm trying
Maybe
to picture
like
this.
Mulan. I don't know. The Lion King's kind of a classic. I don't know. Moana. Have you guys seen Mulan? That actually was a good one.
That was really good.
Is.
I do know people who like go to Disneyland every year for their anniversary. They don't have kids. They just go because they love Disney. I know a lot of people who, I don't know a lot of people,
right?
but I know people who are
adults though, right?
obsessed with Disney. Adults.
People are totally obsessed.
I don't really get it. It's not for me.
Like
It's
I
not me either.
literally don't know anybody that would fall under this description. It's crazy. But I do like I have known people who live in LA, like they live in the area and they have like annual
season pass.
passes and they just go to Disneyland all the time. But like that I can understand because I do love Disneyland. Not because it's Disney, but because it's a theme park. I love roller coasters. I love like going anywhere where it's like imaginary and you're like in a different world. Like, yes, I love that experience, but I don't want to pay $200 for it.
Is it really worth it? That's another question, right?
Yeah.
Is it worth the $200? I mean, maybe family time, but there's a lot you could do as a family without spending $200, I hope.
For sure.
And I get it with kids. I get the draw for kids. I don't really understand. As an adult, I would never choose to watch an animated film if it weren't because I was watching it with my kids. So it's just different personalities, different interests for sure. And it's funny how it's sort of hard to understand interests that are very different from your own, right? It's like, to each his own.
Especially with this.
Yeah. But like, okay, like here's the other thing also is, I mean, when we were kids, Disney movies, you think Lion King, you think, you know, like all the ones that we've said, like cartoon movies, and then also like Flubber, right? With Robin Williams and
that
like
one.
Mary Poppins. Was that Disney? I feel like that's Disney.
Yeah, I think so.
Like those kind of movies. But today, I mean, Disney owns Marvel. Right. So like, you know, and Marvel Endgame, like the whole universe,
all the Avengers
apart from
movies.
the first ones, like the first Iron Man movies and stuff, but like all the Avengers and all that stuff, like those are Disney movies now.
Although not what you typically think of when you think of Disney, but owned by Disney, I guess, conglomeration and all that
Star
stuff.
Wars also owned by Disney. So like those are Disney movies.
Yeah.
Are you guys into Star Wars or Marvel movies?
No, not really.
I like them both. I think they're entertaining. But again, I watch them with my older kids. I wouldn't, like my husband and I, if we're going to go to a movie in the theater, it wouldn't ever have been the Avengers movies. Though we did go to a couple of the new Star Wars movies.
Yeah, a lot of adults like Star Wars just because from back in the day, from the 80s, the 70s, whenever it came out, I think these people were watching as kids, right? And then like as adults, they want to keep watching it. So people are into that.
You know what's funny? My sister is so obsessed with Star Wars that the middle names of both of her sons are Star Wars. Like I think her first son's middle name is Jedi.
Oh, that's awesome.
God, that's hilarious.
I know.
Oh, that's great.
I love all that stuff. You guys know I love comic books. I love sci-fi. For 100%, I will like be the first in line with James and wait 2 hours or whatever to get tickets to like the new Marvel movie.
Awesome.
Star Wars, like not as much. I do love like the first three, like the original ones from like the 70s or whatever, 80s. I love those more. But okay, so here's the other side of Disney. Like we know Disneyland, Disney World movies. Do you guys know about any controversies related to Disney? Have you guys like heard anything like that?
I've heard that Disney kind of bakes in certain things for the adult audience. Like if families are watching as kids and parents, that they add certain like subtopics for adults. I've heard, and some of it has been like kind of controversial as being dirty, or I don't know exactly what it. Yeah,
well, I know one thing in specific that you're kind of mentioning maybe, but where there were some images on some of the covers, like the movie posters and the DVD covers, where there were like little hidden things, sort of like adult images.
That's a rumor.
Like, oh, it's not a rumor. You could go back and see.
Actually true. Okay.
Yeah. What? Do you remember like the specific pictures? Like what it was?
On the Little Mermaid. Of the VHS cassette cover, because when I saw this, I'm like, I have to go look, and it was like plain as day. Once you know it's there was like a male anatomy body part in the castle, like on one of the spires, like so clear.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too. That kind of thing is in Disney, and it's strange, right?
I mean, I remember now that you're talking about it. I remember like when people were talking about that.
And I think there were a few others.
That's so crazy. I've mentioned this on the podcast before because I think it's so interesting. I listen to a podcast called You Must Remember This, and it's like old stories of Hollywood. And sometimes she'll have whole, like one theme for like a whole season of the show. And a season last year was Disney's Song of the South, which is a movie that Disney will not talk about anymore. But they actually released this movie 3 different times in the movie theaters over the period of like 4 decades or whatever. They would like re-release it. So it's horrible. It is the most racist movie ever.
Yes.
And they kind of are trying to like sweep it under the rug now. But just the fact that they re-released this so many times, and the last time was in the 1960s during the civil rights era, right? When
Really?
white people were afraid again, right? Then they re-released it, and lots of white people went to watch it.
That seems really calculated.
That's kind of suspicious. A little suspicious, I would say.
Did you guys ever hear anything about that?
Sounds
I remember
familiar.
seeing clips of little older Disney cartoons of someone in blackface or something, and it may be in like a documentary about racism in cartoons, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard about that. That is horrifying that it would be that calculated and intentional to incite racism.
Yeah. So like the story is, it takes place in the I don't remember the name of the period. It was post-slavery, right? And so the whole premise is like this white kid on a plantation. He talks to this old black man that lives on the plantation, who is a former slave, but he still stays there and works. And he talks about how he misses the days of slavery and stuff like that. And it's like this nostalgic look at the old South, right? Like when the South was great or whatever. Like it's shocking. It's horrible, but listen to like the stories behind it on that podcast. You Must Remember This.
What's crazy is for how many people that wouldn't be shocking and horrifying, like people who are still doing reenactments of the Civil War as the soldiers.
That's still a thing.
Gosh,
it's on the media to evolve with society, right? It's on them. They have to do this. They have to show us new images and new things as we progress as a culture. You know what I mean?
And like,
they are. Which
they don't
do.
Most part,
show racist or do racist stuff anymore, right? But I mean, the issue for me is like, is that from is that external pressure or internal motivation, right? Because definitely extraneous. Like they're like, oh, like people don't want racist things anymore. So, okay. It's not because they themselves discovered a conscience. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, guys, like conversations like this, deeper conversations about like race issues, for example, that we've touched on today. I think these conversations are so beneficial for our students watching, and these deep conversations that natives that we have all the time in real life. This is stuff that students watching right now, you guys, I want you to dive into stuff like this with natives in the future and really connect on a deeper level. So getting these models, hearing how we actually talk about it, this is the first step towards those connections, right, guys?
Yeah. And this is the topic that for me has come up lately with my friends. I've had a similar conversation about Disney in the last couple of weeks. So this is really something that natives really talk about at parties, different places, right? So a very relevant topic. And these are the kinds of topics you want to be able to jump right in. So you need to understand what you're hearing first. Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting how a topic like Disney movies can evolve so quickly over the course of a few minutes. And then you're talking about race issues. And so that's what's tricky about following a conversation with multiple speakers is we switch topics and we're changing and it's not easy to follow. You need practice. You need conversations like this where you can listen to it, interact with the vocabulary and the text, take a quiz, make sure that you're understanding. So guys, you need this practice, right? Go to allearsenglish.com/fast so that you can subscribe and get one of these every week.
Awesome.
Good
stuff.
All right, guys. Wow. I feel like we could have talked for like 2 hours about this.
Oh yeah. We could have got
later. All right, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bonus tip. Get a 7 or higher with the All Ears English app. featuring real-time transcripts and vocabulary practice that will push your score higher. Plus, fun video lessons with Lindsay, Michelle, and Jessica. Download the app today at allearsenglish.com/app.